Yo, what's up? We're back to another episode of MoshBoysTV. Today,
You can't start the episode with "Yo, what's up?" You can't do that.
welcome to another episode of MoshBoysTV. Today, we're going to be reviewing the 2018 album Bestial Manifestations of Malevolence and Death by the band Oxygen Destroyer. I'm Crowdkill Boy, and
I am the Mosh-Man. And before we really jump into it, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who went ahead and watched and subscribed and, clicked like on our previous video talking about Slayer, Rain and Blood. We really do appreciate everyone who took the time out of their day to go and join us in the Mosh Boy pit here. If you're returning back and this is your second time, well, thank you. We're happy to have you. If this is the first time you've seen us, then strap in. We're going to have a little bit of fun.
yeah, welcome back. Now, a little information about this band and specific album. Oxygen Destroyer, they're a band from, I believe, Seattle, if I'm getting it correct. Let it rip. They're kaiju metal, basically. They hit the death thrash with all kaiju themes. This specific album, which was released on July 20th, 2018, most of the songs are about the Godzilla kaiju universe. Mechagodzilla, Godzilla, Space, Dystoria, Biollante, all of them.
Yeah, it's like I'd say it's a majority of the death thrash. Like it's weird to say which one it is more. I'd say it's maybe 60% thrash, maybe 30% death, and 10% black. Those vocals really do sound kind of black or like gothically inspired, very phlegmy, very, like yeah. But the riffs are very like traditionally thrash, sound like they could fit right at home on the Slayer record we reviewed a couple weeks ago. I'm gonna go off and say that I enjoyed the album. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it in the same way that you probably did, just because I know that you're wearing the merch and you've got like the CD. They're a big band for you. I enjoyed it. I think for like a major LP release, this is a really good start. I'm going to harken back to something that I said in the Slayer review a couple weeks ago, in that I think thrash metal is best when it's a little bit more dynamic. And at a point in this album, I didn't feel like it was being that dynamic. I felt like there was a... Bless you, by the way.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, something's scratching my throat.
Yeah, I felt like at a point, I was kind of hearing like the same songs over and over again, but with like different contexts. But that being said, the same song I was hearing was good. So I guess
that was the thing. Like, it kind of thrash kind of falls in that category where some, like most songs you hear, they kind of sound the same, but they each have like their own kind of uniqueness to it. This album was this is their first actual full length album. This is their like full official album, and their new album actually is coming out summer 2020 this summer.
Oh,
like
nice.
I may be biased just because I've loved this band since like 2019. So I may be biased in my thing to my love of Godzilla, kaiju, and the band itself, but it's a great metal. It's, if you want that thrashy feel, it's thrashy.
Yeah, just because I think thrash metal needs to be a little bit more dynamic than just riff, drums, bass, pummeling. Doesn't mean that necessarily is a bad thing. It just doesn't necessarily suit my taste for an entirety of a runtime. I don't want to just say that like I don't like the album, because I do like the album. There are things that are objectively really, really great about this album. Like, for one, I think the production on it is pretty damn stellar. We were talking about mixing and stuff with Slayer and how we thought Repentless was kind of a disappointment because just like the cymbal hits and the bass just weren't there in the mix. This, I don't have that problem. I think everything sounds crisp, pristine. It's a really nice recording, especially for a first LP studio album. Very impressive work.
The first song, Born of Nuclear Energy, that song, it sets up the atmosphere of what this album is about to be. Just the sound of Godzilla closing into the city. So it's basically like preparation for when the second song hits. This is basically that song starting to close in on you.
That second song is my favorite on the whole album.
Oh, I love that. Now, I know we talk about riffs at the end.
Yeah.
I'm going to state it right now. That opening riff, I love it. It's just the perfect amount of groove, thrash with it's just beautiful.
as we're talking about, the album and the way it sounds and stuff, like as I was listening to it and listening to like the guitar tone and stuff, the word that kept like popping up in my head was scaly. Like the way these guitars
Yeah.
sound, it sounds like Slytherin-esque. Like it sounds like a serpent, like lizard, like it's befitting Godzilla.
Yeah, it sounds Godzilla-like. It sounds like rough, just to the touch and everything.
Mm-hmm. It's weird to say that like riffs sound like a texture, but it does. It sounds like a keeled snakeskin. Like it would be smooth one way and then rough the other. Like it's really nice.
Now, the best riff is from the second song, but like I have different favorite songs, but like the best song I feel for me, which is the funniest to me, is "Death to the False King." Just the whole lyrics is talking trash all about the 1998 Zilla.
Or Godzilla was like a female laying eggs and like a
Yes.
T-Rex, and it was wild.
Which is surprisingly my first Godzilla movie I ever watched.
See, when I was a kid, I would like go to like my friend's parents' house, and I guess my friend's parents' house was also my friend's house in a way. That's a weird choice of words. But I would go to their house, and they would have like they would have like a shelf of movies right there. And I saw Godzilla. It was like the '98 Godzilla, and I saw on the brim of that there was just like the yellow eye.
Yeah, that like it intrigued me at first. So like, oh, that's cool. I never heard of this before. Man, this looks cool. And then I saw actual Godzilla movies.
I shouldn't be watching this. That was like the thought that went through my head when I saw that. Now that I've come to my senses.
Is it a bad movie? No. Yes. Godzilla wise, yeah.
It's pretty rough, but
yeah. Because then I discovered actual good ones, and like there's like different eras of Godzilla. But for me personally, I love the Heisei era because that just gives you Space Godzilla, Biollante, and just one of the best villains for me. Dystoria.
Yeah, like, and he's in the album cover. So
yeah, he's right there getting his ass kicked by Godzilla.
Yeah,
which is that Dystoria is actually the main topic in what was it?
The names.
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, just because we're like looking up the names doesn't mean that we haven't heard this album a lot.
We haven't heard. It's just their names are like very specific.
They're very long, specific. Like it looks like they just like opened up like a dictionary and just started picking like the most elaborate words that they possibly could. It's like Jimmy Neutron wrote the song titles for everything. Yeah, the Dystoria song is Onslaught of the Precambrian Hordes, which kind of discusses what Dystoria actually started as before becoming his like perfect form. Even though I would still say this is kind of like it's a thrash metal album. The titles of the songs are so death metal. Like death metal always has like weird freaking song titles.
Like if you have some like gore, like medical gore terms, it's a full on like 90s death metal.
I really, really enjoyed most of what the album had to offer. Like I said at the beginning, my only real criticism was that like I mainly listened to this album when I was just kind of like walking. I would have like my AirPods in and just kind of try to feel it because you can't really dissect the lyrics without really like reading into them, because a lot of the vocals are, like we said, like black metal ass, very phlegmy, and it sounded like that meme, like za za, like,
ooh wee boy,
za za. Maybe like 4 or 5 songs in, you're like, man, I feel like I've heard this riff before. And I had that feeling of like deja vu for a couple tracks. I feel like some of the riffs were like, repeated with the exception of like maybe 1 fret over on the fretboard to get a little bit more of like.
That's the thing. Like me, like I listened to it kind of when I was like meant to focus. I've listened to it so many times, like ever since I bought the album back in like 2020. So I've listened to it like dozens of times. So like these few times I've been listening to it for the past weeks, I've actually been just sitting down, actually like listening to it, reading the lyrics, and like just dissecting it. It's like if you're actually listening to it and actually like, dissecting it, you'll hear like the differences between the songs. But for example, if you just put the CD in on a drive, you'll at times feel like, did I hear the song before? And that's
kind of like thrash metal. That's just like a staple of thrash metal.
All thrash metal is guilty of that. Not saying it's a bad
Rain
thing.
and Blood was kind of guilty of that for a bit, but
it's like mainly it's like during like the middle album. It's like middle of the album where it falls in like where it's like some songs sound similar. Not saying it's bad. It's just like they do that at times. It's just like a habit of thrash metal.
This album kind of does have that like middle album syndrome where the middle portion of the album kind of feels like it sort of lost touch a bit, and then it kind of like tightens up by the end a bit. Same thing that happened with Rain and Blood, by the way. So don't think that like even the greatest are immune from this. Like Slayer, undoubtedly is one of the top thrash metal bands you can listen to, and even they can have some downers in the middle of the album. But this album definitely ends on a strong suit. I think Atomic Breath is awesome.
Yeah, that's the song to close on.
Because thrash metal has a tendency of just being, I don't just want to say thrashy because it's like, well, duh, but it has a tendency of being very no holds barred whenever it can be. So it can get kind of wary whenever it's just like, like at 100% all the time. And it's just like the small things, the very small things that can break up that formula that make something very interesting. And I feel like it's what leads into like, one of my favorite moments on the album, which is the opening for Atomic Breath, when the guitars link up with the drums to have that very nice, like chunky, like chun, chun, chun. It honestly just kind of mimics like Godzilla stomping around,
like that's like the whole point of this. Yeah, looking at the official album booklet. Now I was reading through it. Yeah, it's basically talking about how Godzilla feels, and he's just rampaging through the city. So that whole just it's like basically the impending doom of the last song.
Why haven't we talked about it already? But this album art, bro, album art is killer. Like, look at this. This thing is amazing.
If I'm not looking like an idiot right here, I'm actually going into Instagram to find their page because they actually list artists who actually did it and who's actually doing their newest album.
Well, he searches for this. I'm going to, in editing, cut to when he finds it. And
now the artist is Sebastian. I don't know how. I hope I don't butcher his last name. Mazuera. He's actually a tattoo artist in Seattle. So yeah, they're close together.
I was about to say, you're about to hit him up, maybe get this on your forearm or something.
yo, bro, hit me up, man. I want my face to be Ghidorah.
I want Mothra wings on my back.
Hey, just looking at it, just the art style.
It honestly kind of looks like a mixture of like, death metal logos with like 90s style like manga, which is really cool. Especially because like, it's very popular for Godzilla to like rampage through like big like Japanese cities, All right, do you want to jump into superlatives?
Yeah, let's just go into that. Favorite riff, Cleansing the Earth of Humanity. That first just groove, it hits you hard.
I was also going to say Cleansing the Earth as my favorite riff. Since you already said it, and I just want to kind of highlight a little bit, I'm going to pick a different one then. I want to say Atomic Breath, but I've already sort of highlighted that as well. So I'm going to say Supersonic Devastator. I think that one's got a pretty chunky riff in it as well. I think the riffs on this album are good. I just feel like at a point they kind of sound similar. How about your favorite song on the album just in general?
Summoning the Moth of Divinity. Yeah, just because how it hits like it's hitting hard, and then midway it throws into one of Mothra's cries, and then goes right back into it. My second favorite, which is like an underrated one, Onslaught of the Precambrian Hordes, or Subsumed within the Bowels of the Perennial Monstrosity. Both of those songs are, that's a mouthful, which I believe is about Biollante. if you know who that is on Godzilla, it's that giant flower monster, which was formed by I believe the death of a scientist's daughter who he tried to revive, but it went horribly wrong.
What's the name of the guy? He basically looks like the Tin Man from
Jet
Wizard of
Jaguar?
Oz. What?
Jet Jaguar?
Yeah,
Does he have
that
like red
guy.
and blue on him?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. The where in the movie where Godzilla drop kicks someone.
Yeah, he he's talking like the flying drop kick.
Yeah. The whole movie, literally, it's great. It's because like they team up against Megalon, who gets beaten in the end, and Gigan. And towards the end, Gigan flees and leaves Megalon to fend for himself, where he just gets housed by Jet Jaguar and Godzilla.
Did you ever play I think it's just Godzilla Unleashed on the PS2.
I played Save the Earth and Unleashed.
Yeah, I played Unleashed, and Rodan was like my go-to player. Look, as a kid, I was a sucker for anything that allowed me to play as a dinosaur. And when you play as Rodan, if you held like the R2 on the controller, you could literally fly.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
could
'cause he's a
fly
flying
around the
creature.
battlefield. It was awesome.
Because he's a flying creature. Same with King Ghidorah, Mecha King Ghidorah, Mothra, Batra. Yeah.
When I was young playing that game, I thought Rodan was pronounced Rodan just because, he was a dinosaur. So it's like, Iguanodon, like I just thought that was what it was because he was a dinosaur. And I remember I got blisteringly corrected by you because we went to see King of the Monsters. And like Rodan shows up.
It's Rodan.
But anyway, I leaned over to you in the theater and I'm like, whoa, look at that. Rodon's super cool. And you like snapped. You like, what did you say?
Yo, it's Rodan. Actually, it's Rodan.
I didn't say another word for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and then the whole rest of the movie, I'm getting hyped up. I'm like, making slappy in the trailer.
It's like that video with like the guy in the car and like he's trying to eat the cereal. And you're just
trying to enjoy the movie. The Godzilla fanatic I brought along with me.
All right. So what are our closing thoughts for Bestial Manifestations of Malevolence and Death by Oxygen Destroyer? Say that 5 times fast.
This may be because of my personal preference towards kaiju, Godzilla, metal. I love this album. I can listen to it nonstop. 10 out of 10. I love the album. Everything about it, just the theming around it, the sound. It's the perfect album for me.
Yeah, it's a good thrash metal album, guys. Like I've got my gripes with it, but I can be objective, and I think there are things about this album that are done really, really well. I think the atmosphere built by all the songs, the tone of the guitars, like it all sounds very kaiju-esque, which is what it's trying to do.
It represents the sound, the feeling, the sense of dread, power, just basically the force of nature that the kaijus represent in the movies.
Yeah, it's obvious that the band members are huge fans of the source material. I guess my closing thoughts, I'm going to give Bestial Manifestations of Malevolence and Death by Oxygen Destroyer. I'm going to try to say that as many times as possible so I can stretch the runtime for for YouTube purposes.
We got to get the monetization.
Yeah, and make absolutely no money on it.
We got to earn that dollar, man. We got to earn that.
Because copyrighted material that I dispute every time. I'm going to give this album 7.9 thick Godzilla thighs out of 10.
Cool. This is the end of Mosh Boys. Hope you guys enjoyed watching.
Well, it was a good run, guys.
Well, it was a good run. Piss off from this guy above.
Guess what? Pants are now required in the pit.
Pants are formal now. This is a formal occasion.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us on our second episode of Mosh Boys. I guess it's my turn to pick the album.
I chose this album, so yeah, it's up to you.
The album that I am going to choose for next episode is Where the Gloom Becomes Sound by Tribulation. They're like a gothic sort of heavy metal band. I've always really enjoyed their music. I think they came out with a killer album a couple of years back. I really want to see what they've done. I've only heard a couple singles off of it, and I really want to listen to the whole thing, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. So Join us in 2 weeks when we talk about Tribulations Where the Gloom Becomes Sound. It's going to be a fun album. And thank you so much. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out. If you have, any music or anything that you would like us to feature or maybe talk about in a brief segment before an album review, please send it to us. Our Gmail is right here. Feel free to send us a clip of your music. We love to hear what you guys are coming up with. We like to know that the community is having fun and, being very creative itself, Please share with us.
Yeah, same. Like if you don't have a Gmail or something, or if you do have an Instagram, right here is our Instagram account, which I run. So if you want to send a link through Instagram, I could send it forward and we could discuss it.
And please don't just send me Collective Soul over and over again.
Hey, shine. Shine does. Yeah.
Yeah. Hit subscribe, become a part of that Mosh Boy pit where pants are optional.
Yep.
You're gonna end the video off with yep. That's the last thing you want.
I'm not ending it with yep.
Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night.
Bleep that word with a guitar riff. Just
our sensors can be just like wow, like a pinch harmonic.
We want that after the burial pinch.
Listen to this album, pinch harmonics. I'm gonna give this album 10 pinch harmonics out of 10.
Just 10 minutes of us going.